All right, peace and love, everyone. Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me now. I think my mute button was on. Let me know if you can hear me now. All right, perfect. Woo, see, all right. So this is why I like to have my extra devices around because I'm able to follow the chat. I can't follow the chat on my computer, but I have my phone here with me so that I can see what you all are saying. So thank you for letting me know. Always got to do a mic check. Always have to do a mic check. So welcome to day one of the Refine Your Status Irrevocable Trust Challenge, right? We're going to be going for 5 days. Today is day one. Today is day one. I'd like to welcome you all to the challenge. As you come into the chat, just put some fireballs in the chat. I want you to come with big energy this evening. We're going to go probably for about 30 minutes or so. Challenges typically are usually not that long, right? I'm so blessed and so honored to be able to come before you all and just give what I know, right, on trust technology. If you do not already follow me, because I don't want to assume that people follow me, right? So if you don't know who I am, my name is Tamara T. Bush, and I just consider myself an educator of many things, you could say, right? But one of which is trust technology, right? Trust technology. I'm hoping that a good majority of you all have already gone through the first challenge that I did back in August, where we spoke specifically about revocable trust. So this challenge is really just an extension of the initial challenge. It's like we're building up our knowledge base, right? So I wanted to start out with revocable. Tonight, we're going to deal with irrevocable, right? So I'm hoping that the information that you're going to hear this evening is going to be beneficial, right? So as you come into the challenge, definitely drop those fireballs. I would like to see you all engage with the challenge. I do appreciate your time here with me this evening. I really, really appreciate you all. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. You all, just please know that whenever I'm teaching, I like to start out with definitions, to ensure that we're all on the same page, right? Definitions is key to understanding, right? It is key to understanding. All right, so we're just going to go over a few definitions this evening to just sort of set the tone and the foundation for the next 4 days, right? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm super excited for you all to be here. But let's go ahead and get started. So I don't know if any of you have this particular dictionary, but we are going to be coming out of Black's Fourth. We're going to be coming out of Black's Fourth this evening. All right, Black's Law Dictionary, Black's Fourth. We're going to be coming out of Black's Fourth. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, let me know if you all can see my screen. On the screen, you should see the word trust. Hello there. Hello. You should see the word trust on the screen. All right, so again, today is day one. We're going to be speaking about important definitions and the purpose of the foreign irrevocable trust. All right. Okay, so what is a trust? What is a trust? Trust is a right of property, okay, real or personal, held by one party for the benefit of another. Now let's expound on that for just a moment, okay? All right. Anytime that you go out into the world and you do commerce, anytime that you sign a document, there's always a trusted operation. What does that mean? We have all of these subsidiary trusts that are being created every single day, which is a derivative of the main trust, the big trust, all right? Everything that you look at every single day, we should be looking at it as some form of trust, right? Some form of trust. Now, let's take, for instance, your credit card bill or your loan agreement. That can be considered trust documentation, right? A contract is a trust, all right? It says a confidence reposed in one person who is termed a trustee for the benefit of another, who is called cestui trust, respecting property which is held by the trustee for the benefit of the cestui trust. All right. Now, this is why I like to use the older dictionaries because they're giving you the real definitions, right? They're giving you the real definitions. Okay. One could also look at a trust, like I said before, as a contract between two parties. A contract between two parties. Now, there are different types of trusts. Okay. There's different types, and there's different types of trust that can be used for different reasons. But ultimately, our job is to be able to identify when a trust is being created. Okay, so we want to look at capacity of the parties involved. Do they have the legal capacity to contract? Okay, we want to look at the intent. What was the intent, right? Because the intent must be there, right? And that intent is usually expressed either verbally or in writing, okay? Verbally or in writing, right? All right, so these are the elements of the trust. So you all are definitely going to write this down. Okay, there's capacity, there's intent, there's property. Okay, capacity, intent, property, and there is an identified beneficiary. There's an identified beneficiary. Okay, capacity, intent, property, beneficiary. If the four elements, if you're able to identify these four elements in whatever transactions that that you're doing out here in commerce, then there is a trust. There's always a trusted operation, whether it be expressed or not expressed, voluntary or involuntary, construed or misconstrued. There is always a trusted operation. Always a trusted operation. Okay, let's move on to our next definition. It's going to be irrevocable, right? Because we are speaking specifically about an irrevocable trust during this 5-day challenge. Okay. Irrevocable. Now, remember, we're coming out of Black's fourth, okay, which cannot be revoked or recalled. Now, I think that there is some confusion surrounding the term irrevocable because a lot of people believe that the term irrevocable means that it cannot be changed. When you have an irrevocable trust that you are using for asset protection, remember, if you have assets that are being presented to the trust in which the grantor has to accept the asset and deposit that asset into trust, and take it and convert it into trust res or estate property, then there's going to be assets that are constantly being received into the trust, right? So there is movement there. There's movement there on a consistent basis, right? So when you think about an irrevocable trust, it doesn't mean that the terms cannot be changed. It just means that once the trust is created, it cannot be revoked or recalled by the grantor. That's essentially what that means, right? That means that there is what one could call, it is a contract. It can also be looked at as a covenant, right? Let's look at the term covenant for just a moment because I want to get into this, right? I'm going to look at the term covenant, right? This is covenant. We're still coming out of Black's fourth, right? All right. So now there's many. If you have the dictionary, I would recommend going to, what page is this? This is page 437, and just read 437 and 438, right? But we're in this little section here under declaratory or obligatory, right? So it says real and personal. A real covenant is one which binds the heirs. It binds the heirs of the covenantor and passes to the assignees or purchasers. A covenant, the obligation of which is so connected to the reality that he who has the latter is either entitled to the benefit of it or is liable to perform it. This is what we want to focus on right here. If I can highlight. This is the section that we want to focus on right here. Okay, it won't let me just highlight that section, but right here, I can. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to underline it right in here. That section right there. A covenant, the obligation of which is so connected with the reality that he who has the latter is either entitled to the benefit of it or is liable to perform it. So there's some sort of benefit or performance that comes by way of a covenant, okay, or a trust. I'm using these terms interchangeably, hoping that you all are following that I'm using these words interchangeably, right? So we're talking about a trust, a contract, covenant, okay? Trust, contract, covenant. There is some performance there. There's some performance there. All right, so let me pull up my eSword, and we're gonna look at this specifically with regards to the term irrevocable. All right, because remember we said that irrevocable means it cannot be revoked or recalled. Cannot be revoked or recalled. So when I think about irrevocable, I'm thinking about something that is going to sort of last forever. It will last throughout the generations. It's everlasting, right? It'll last throughout the generations. It's everlasting. So that means that it cannot be revoked. It cannot be changed. You can add into it, but it cannot be changed, right? It's everlasting. So me being the type of person that I am, I'm automatically going to go to scripture, right? I'm going to look up the term everlasting. Because when I think about an irrevocable trust and I think about the promises, that is something that is everlasting throughout the generations. It cannot be changed. It cannot be changed. So when I go to scripture and I look up everlasting, I'm looking at all of the times that the Most High said to us that his covenant was everlasting, regardless of who he was speaking to in scripture, right? If you look at all of the times that the term everlasting, this is the King James version of the Bible, right? All the times that the Most High said that his covenant is everlasting or his promise is everlasting. Now, there's so many different stories inside of the Bible where the Most High created a covenant relationship, right? It starts out in Genesis, and then there's so many different stories, right? Okay. Now, when we think about the term everlasting, right? And so we're looking at the definition. This is the Hebrew definition of the term everlasting, right? Okay. Properly concealed. That is the vanishing point. Generally, time out of mind, past or future, that is practically eternity. Frequentative, adverbally, especially with prepositional prefix, always, always, ancient time, anymore, continuous, eternal, everlasting, more of old, lasting, long time, of old time, perpetual, at any time, beginning of the world, without end, without end. Now we're still talking about an irrevocable trust here, right? Because the very, very, very first trust that was ever created was created with, by the Most High with Adam, right? Very, very first trust. Why am I bringing this up? Because when we think about an irrevocable trust, when you are looking at it in terms of protecting your assets, those assets that have been given to you and gifted to you and granted to you by the Most High, right? Those assets, one of which being is your birthright inheritance, any physical irrevocable trust that you create here on earth is essentially an extension of the original trust given to you and gifted to you and granted to you by the Most High. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit more on day 3 when we speak specifically about the jurisdiction of your trust, right? Because the way that we are should be moving out here in the world is set apart from the world, right? Set apart from man. So when we begin to distinguish ourselves and separate ourselves from the world and operate in the jurisdiction given to us by the Most High, this is where your process is set apart from every other process out there. Because I acknowledge that many of you have joined this talent challenge because you are looking to you're looking to do some sort of process, right? You're looking to sort of get education so that you can either start a process, some sort of an administrative process, or you are looking to settle a debt, or you are looking to just deal with your bills, whatever the thing is that you're looking to resolve. All of the information that's going to be disseminated to you in the challenge is for that purpose, even though I'm in scripture. All of these principles line up, right? So when we're thinking about an irrevocable trust, I have to take it all the way back to scripture because that's essentially where these principles came from. They came from the Bible, right? So just to reiterate what I just said, any physical trust that we create here on earth is an extension of the original trust granted to us by the Most High in that covenant relationship, right? That is everlasting. It is irrevocable, right? So your meaning, the meaning of an irrevocable trust is an everlasting covenant that you are using to protect your assets, whatever the assets are. We're going to get into the discussion of assets on day 2, but I want to just set the foundation in terms of the meaning of an irrevocable trust. An irrevocable trust is the type of trust that we are using to protect those most delicate assets. All right, those tangible and intangible assets that mean the most to us. Now, if you all rewind and go back to the revocable challenge, we spoke about using the revocable trust for transactions and banking. An irrevocable trust has a very specific purpose in terms of asset protection, but you have to ask yourself, what type of assets are you needing to protect? What type of assets are you receiving on a daily basis that need to be taken and accepted into the trust as an asset and converted to trust property or estate property so that you can use it to your benefit to settle whatever matters you need to settle? All right. I want you all to think about this. Every single day you receive something in the mail. Every single day, well, at least once a month, you're getting an electric bill, you're getting a utility bill, you're getting the mortgage, you're getting the car note, you're getting the credit card. All of these things are assets. All of each and every one is asset. They're assets. An asset that has been created by a trust agreement that you didn't know was a trust agreement when you signed it. There's always a trust at operation. Hear me when I say this. There is always a trust at operation, but our job is to identify the trust. We have to identify the trust, right? And the best way to take and convert those assets into trust property is by way of an irrevocable trust. An irrevocable trust. All right. Okay. All right. So we went over covenants. All right. All right. So let's talk about promise. Right? Promise. Many of you signed promissory notes. You signed a promissory note when you did your mortgage. You signed a promissory note for the car. You may have some unsecured debts out there, right? So what is a promise? And remember, we're coming out of Black's Fourth, right? A declaration which binds the person who makes it, either in honor, conscience, or law, to do or forbear a certain specific act, and which gives the person to whom made the right to expect the claim the performance of some particular thing. All right, the part that I have highlighted is a declaration, verbal or written, made by one person to another for a good or valuable consideration. All right, now I got to go back to scripture here. This is Genesis 9, 9:16. Genesis 9:16. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between the Most High and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. All right. This is a promise. This is a promise. Right. So the promissory note comes from scripture. There's something that you signed or something that was expressed that binded you in an obligatory position, right? You were appointed trustee and obligor, right? You're the obligated party to pay. That's what the promise is. The promise is the contract. The promise is the promissory note, right? The promise is the credit card. It's still all considered trust. It's all trust. There's always a trusted operation. Always, 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 always a trusted operation. So if you don't take anything away from day one, just know that there is always a trust at operation. Always. Now, you have to think, what capacity in that trust are you going to be? Or what capacity have you been placed in when that trust was created? What's your capacity? All right. Most of us have been placed in the trustee position, which is the obligated party to pay. Okay. But what if I told you that even though you're a trustee of the trust and obligated party to pay, that at some point in that trust relationship, there's an opportunity for you to change your hat. There's an opportunity for you to change your hat and place yourself in a position to control the asset and use the asset to settle the bill. All right. This is where your settler duties come into play. Right? This is where your settler duties come into play, because the settler is usually the party that donates the assets to the trust. They actually transfer legal title to the trust. Your title being the credit card bill, the loan, the utility. Those are all considered legal titles. They're all legal titles. All right. So you operate in trustee capacity until you switch your hat to take on another role to receive the asset, deposit it as trust res, estate property, and then you take and convert that asset into something that can be used to settle the debt. That's what the settlers do. Right now, this is an irrevocable trust. All right, irrevocable trust. Remember, everything is a trust, everything. You just have to know how to maneuver and do what you need to do to settle the bill. All right. The settler transfers legal title. The settler deals with the legal title. The settler deals with settling the debts. Hope y'all are writing this down. Are y'all writing this down? Okay. It's always a trusted operation. The settler deals with the trust instrument. What is the trust instrument? The trust instrument is the bill. It's the bill. I want you all to put this, listen. Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing for a second. Let me stop sharing for a second. All right, we got 30 people in this. We got 32 people in this live. 32 people. All right. I want you all to write in the chat. Okay. I want all of you to write in the chat. The bill is the trust instrument. 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 Right. The bill is the trust instrument. The bill is the trust instrument. I should see 30 people write this in the chat. The bill is the trust instrument. Then I got another one for you all to write. Yes, we drilling this in. We're drilling it in. The bill is the trust instrument. The bill is the trust instrument. All right, here's the second thing I want you all to write. Yes, the bill is the trust instrument. Okay, so what is an instrument though? Think about what I'm saying. You all have heard about negotiable instruments all the time. You all have heard about negotiable instruments. So what is a negotiable instrument? It is an asset. Okay. Next thing I want you all to write, the bill is trust property. 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 Yes, the bill is trust property. The bill is trust property. The bill is trust property. Right. This is right. The bill is trust property, aka trust res. That's exactly what it is. So when you receive a bill in the mail every month, we have to do that which is necessary to take the bill and convert it to an asset that's going to benefit the beneficiary of that trust. The bill is trust property. That's exactly what it is. It's trust property, no matter how you look at it. And so even if you didn't express the trust up front, you can still express it later. And that's a beautiful thing. You can still express it later. The bill is trust property. Okay, I got one more for you. I got one more. This is the last one. You ready? Are you all ready? I don't think y'all ready. Are y'all ready for this last one? Right, because we're talking about an irrevocable trust today. Irrevocable trust. Okay. Are you ready? Okay, you're ready. You're ready. Okay, 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 okay. I know there's a delay. I know that there's a delay. I know there's a delay. Okay, here's the last one. Now listen, after you get off of this challenge, I want you to really think about this one. I want you when I tell you I want you to think about this one, I want you to think and I need you to meditate on this. And I want you to ask the Most High to send you understanding of what I'm about to say. Okay? I want everyone to write in the chat, I am trust property. 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 I am right, because remember, we're talking about an irrevocable trust that can be used to protect the most delicate asset out there. What is the greatest asset that you have? What is the greatest asset that you have. I am trust property. I am trust property. Right. So yeah, I get that. The certificate of live birth is trust res. Absolutely. But what about you? I'm not talking about the birth certificate right now. Everybody write in the chat, I am trust property. Correct. So for the purpose of this challenge, the greatest asset that we have, the greatest and biggest asset that we have is ourselves. We are the res. We are the property. And we're going to talk more about assets tomorrow on day 2. Right? So just to recap, an irrevocable trust is a form of everlasting promise or everlasting covenant that is an extension of the original trust gifted and granted to us by the Most High. Right? It cannot be revoked. It can never be revoked. It is everlasting and it can last throughout the generations, right? Because a lot of you may be trying to create generational wealth, quote unquote, generational wealth, all right? And an irrevocable trust, the main purpose of an irrevocable trust is for us to protect the most delicate assets, right? That's the greatest purpose. And there's different types of trusts out there. But an irrevocable trust is one that should not be easily pierced, right? The more layers you have, the better. The more layers you have, the better. Now, if you all have created a revocable trust off of the last challenge, here's my question to you. Who's the beneficiary of your revocable trust? Who is the beneficiary of your revocable trust? Who's the beneficiary? I'm going to tell you who it should be, but I'm interested to know who you think it should be. Who's the beneficiary of your revocable trust? The beneficiary. There you go, Marcia, you got it. You hit the nail on the head. Everybody look and see what Marcia put in the chat. Everybody look at what Nefertiri put in the chat. Nefertiri and Marcia are dead on. When you're creating a trust, you want another trust to be your beneficiary. No, never the straw man. No, not the all caps, not the living being either. Remember, this is asset protection. This is asset protection. Right. You got it now. Yeah, you got it. I don't recommend having another person as a beneficiary. Remember the layers. Remember the layers. We want to do everything in layers with regards to trust. It's always going to be another trust. All right, everybody. So that concludes day 1. Like I said, we were only going to go for about 30, 40 minutes. Somebody asked a question in here about, let me scroll back. Somebody asked a question in here about the download. There's no download for this challenge. There may be something available later, but there was no download. Yes, we are the source of all values. I love it. Yes, 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 yes. I am trust property. Absolutely, absolutely. Remember that. Irrevocable trust for asset protection. Irrevocable is everlasting, cannot be changed. It's an everlasting covenant that we're going to use for asset protection. Remember, we want to use this irrevocable trust for a very specific purpose. All right, so tomorrow, day 2, we're going to speak a little bit more about assets. All right. You said what were the 4 elements? The 4 elements are capacity, intent, property, and beneficiary. Uh, uh, what if you're in probate with an irrevocable trust? How does my trust fit in? Yeah, the 4 elements. Capacity. Capacity is it's related to the individuals that are creating the trust. Capacity just means that they have to have legal capacity to create the trust, that they have to be of sound mind. It's similar to the elements of a contract. You have to be a sound mind in order to create a contract. So capacity is similar to that. All right. The intent that a trust is going to be created. So when you go and sign a credit card agreement, there is intent there. There is intent, right? Because it's being expressed through an instrument of some sort, either a promissory note or a contract that you're signing. So the intent is there because you are signing documentation. All right. The property, identifiable property is the specific property or the assets under which the trust is being created, right? The property must be identifiable and the title must be transferable, okay? Identifiable property. All right, and the final element is beneficiary. There must be an identified beneficiary. So you have to be able to see who is going to benefit from that trust being created. All right, so you have capacity, intent, property, and an identified beneficiary. Those are your 4 elements. Oh yeah, there's definitely a process, Ray. The question is there a process to express the bill as trust res? Yes, sir, there is. What if you're in probate with an irrevocable trust? Oh, I see what you're saying, Kelly. It was your mother's and she's gone. Okay, so she passed away and you're currently in probate with an irrevocable trust where your mother was. You might have to get a hold of me. Send me an email. Um, I don't have enough information to be able to give you an answer in this chat. Question is, so is revocable trust only needed if you're a secure party creditor, or is it needed at all? You're speaking 2 different languages right now. I don't support the secure party creditor process at all. And the secure party creditor process is not the same as operating through a trust relationship. It's completely different. I would recommend leaving that secure party creditor stuff alone and just focus more so on trust. Secure party creditor is getting a lot of people in trouble. I wouldn't be doing that. And there's really no such thing as a secure party creditor either. There's really no such thing. It's just a process out there. It's a process that was put out into this industry by a bunch of agents. There's no such thing as a secure party creditor. So, Eunice, what I would say to you is that a revocable trust is used for a specific purpose and an irrevocable trust is used for a specific purpose. Both are needed and they perform different functions for different reasons, right? We use revocable trusts for transactions and banking. Irrevocable trusts are used specifically for asset protection, right? So the secure party creditor isn't related to operating in trust relationships. You can do satisfaction with the trust. Mhm. But you have to, there's some other steps there that you have to do. All right, everybody. You're welcome. All right. I hope that this was beneficial. Just remember, irrevocable trust. You all are going to want to go and study. If you don't have a Black's Law Dictionary, you're going to want to get your hands on a Black's Law Dictionary very soon so that you can have proper definitions, right? You're going to need proper definitions in order to get through this challenge. And there will more than likely be a download. It's just not ready, right? I started working on it, I ran out of time. Just ran out of time. So yeah, there's no download that you all will have during the challenge, but the guide may be available after. But we'll see what happens. All right, everybody. So that concludes day one. I pray that this was beneficial to you all, and I will see you in the next video, which is going to be day two. We're going to be speaking more about assets. So you definitely want to come back. Now, let me let you all know that you're going to want to come back every day and engage with the challenge, right? If you do that, there's going to be some giveaways and prizes on day 5 for those that come back and engage with the challenge every single day. And when I say engage, that means I can see you in the chat, you're making comments, you know, and also you definitely want to press the like button on the business page. And after the challenge is over, there is a special giveaway to anyone that has engaged with the challenge for all 5 days. You properly signed up on the website for the challenge, right? Because everybody should have filled out the form on the website. Everybody should have filled out the form. But if you go back to the channel, not the channel, but if you go back to the Facebook page and you leave a review on this Facebook page, there is a special giveaway for you. All right. So it's a number of things that you're going to have to do to put your name in the potty for the giveaways on day 5. All right. When you went to fill out the form, it was actually stated in the form the way that you can put your name in the pot. All right. So you are engaging with the challenge in all 5 days where I can visibly see your comments. You filled out the form on the website and you're leaving a review on the business page after the challenge is over. You don't have to do it now, but that means you're going to do it after the challenge is over. Right? Well, day 5. But we'll get more into that later. All right. I appreciate you all. Peace and love to you all. And I will see you all on day 2. Have a good evening.